Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name's Andrew, I'm the Vintage Camera Guy, and in this video I'm going to give you my 5 top reasons that I just love shooting old vintage cameras. And make sure you hang around for my top reason because it's a real good one. Number 5. The first on my list of reasons is quite simple and it's common to film cameras compared to digital. It's just that it slows you down. Where you might shoot a dozen shots of one subject, shooting digital, shoot multiple angles. With film, and particularly with these old cameras, you tend to just have to bring it right back down. Look at your composition, plan out what you're going to do, look at your lighting, your exposures, all those things, because you're probably only going to take 1, maybe 2 photos at any given time. You look at some of these cameras, something like this, no exposure meter, no focus, you have to manually do all of that work for yourself. So just slowing you down makes you think much more about an image. Digital, love digital, but there is this tendency to just take more photos than you might need. Take a heap and then hope that one of them is going to be the shot. Whereas using these sort of cameras, it's going to cost you. Every frame you take is going to cost you. You just have to work slower. So slowing you down, that's my number 5 reason. Number 4. Number 4 is unpredictable results. When you get these cameras, some of these cameras have not even seen the light of day for maybe 50 years. They are old, obviously. They've got parts in them that have deteriorated over time. You just don't know what you're going to get. The shutter speeds, things like light leaks. When I took this camera out, my AE1 program out, light leaks. My Zeiss Icon Netta, which I love, has got some unpredictable light leaks. So you take a photo and you're just not quite sure what you're going to get. So there's this extra little bit that when you're looking at the images, there's something that's unrepeatable. And that just, for me, makes them a little bit more special. So unpredictable results, it's number 4. Number 3. Number 3 is that all of these cameras give you a tangible connection to the past. Whenever I get, particularly if I get a new old camera, there's always this thought that who was the first person to own this? Where did it come from? Who was the person who took this camera, walked into a camera store, saw this sitting on a shelf and thought, that's the camera I want to buy. I want that camera. What was their reasoning for it? Some of them are easy. You take something like this beast of a camera, this RB76. This was always a professional camera. Hugely expensive, heavy, difficult to operate. It was a pro camera. A professional owned this camera. What did they do? Weddings, portraits, who knows? But then you get a camera like this RD6. It's Bakelite. It's basically a plastic camera from the 1950s. Who bought that? And what was the journey? How did it get to me? Was it bought to take family photos? Was it bought to take a once-in-a-lifetime trip? Who knows? But you become part of it. I become part of that legacy of that camera. And every image that I take with this adds to that camera's story. And maybe I don't know what that story is, but it's nice to sort of think sometimes, where's this camera been? This camera here, it's an Italian camera. I don't even know that I've got no evidence that these were sold in Australia. They may have been. But this might have come out with somebody who emigrated to Australia. So that history is something that is really cool, and it's something that you can really enjoy. So that tangible connection to the past and that adding to a story of a camera, that's my number 3 reason. My number 2 reason, and we're getting to the big one. My number 2 reason is they challenge your skills. There's no autofocus. Well, there are. You can go to later ones, but on none of my cameras have autofocus. Many of them don't even have a means of checking your focus. Something like this one here, this Canonet QL, it's a rangefinder camera. So you look through the viewfinder and you've got a means of focusing. Something like the Pentax Spotmatic, which is an SLR camera. Again, you can see through the lens. But something like this Retinet, you can't. You've got no light meter, you've got no means of focusing, no guide that tells you when you're in focus. So you either guesstimate the distance or you use zone focusing. You're X amount of distance away, you pick a focus and away you go for it. And in terms of light metering, you either use a phone app or something like a little light meter like this, but you've manually got to do all these things. And all these things challenge you to become a better photographer. And I really like that. I grew up using film and moved to digital, and I think it helped me then to become a better photographer, to become a more thoughtful photographer. And going back and using these cameras now, that's just reinforced that thing. So challenging your skills and challenging you to be a better photographer. That's number 2. My number 1 reason, the sheer variety of cameras and the styles of cameras that are available. In modern times, with digital cameras, there's a fairly limited number of types of cameras. You can get your compacts, you can get your little SLR mirrorless, but they're very similar cameras. Whereas in the days of these cameras, people just went out, and some of these cameras, you wonder what made the people who designed and built these cameras even go down that path. You can go for very simple early SLRs, something like the Spotmatic, which is a classic, a later SLR. This camera is very, very comfortable for someone who's used to digital cameras. Apart from manual focus, you can throw this thing into full auto and go for it. But then there's some weird ones. You've got this one, this RD6. It's made of Bakelite, which is an early form of plastic. The lens literally screws out. You get to a point where you can then focus. You've got 4 set focus systems. You've got 3 shutter speeds, 3 apertures. It's a camera that it's a 6x9 camera. This, on a 120 roll of film, you only get 8 shots on that camera. Thing like the Bensini Carole, aluminium, it's tube. Zeiss Icon Netta, which is a beautiful little folding camera. Twin lens reflex cameras. There is just such a huge variety, and you can have different film types. The classic 35mm, 120. There's a couple of others, but these are the 2 primary ones, and that gives you this variety of cameras. So just to be able to grab a camera that's different just about every day. This is just a small part of my collection, and I just love using all of them because they're all different. They all have a different feel about them. They work in different ways. Things like this one, this Balder. It's literally upside down and back to front. The film winder's on the opposite side to that you would normally have. It's a little knob like that. It winds. You focus it with a knob here. Nothing is in the normal spot, but this company decided that this was how they were going to build their cameras. So there's just such a variety, and that is just such a fun way to have cameras. Okay, that's my 5 top reasons for shooting vintage cameras. Leave a comment, give me a like to see if you like what I'm doing. If you've got some of these cameras or one of these cameras, or there's some cameras you'd like to talk about, leave me a comment down below, and I'll see what I can do. But for now, thank you, and catch ya.